afternoon, whale community. I'm very excited because today we have the honor of having a very special guest here for the Makerspace X Whale artist chat series. So we are joined by Vaccine, who is an amazing artist in the space. He's also a man of many talents. So I feel like he's going to be the best to introduce all of the amazing things that he's done and really hype up, where he's at. But you can see in his office, or I guess I'm not sure, studio, the wall behind him is an amazing example of some of the art that he's created. So this is the treat that we are in for today, and we'll get to walk through his journey and the journey from the music and the art into the crypto space. So thank you so much for joining us today. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. It's truly an honor, and I'm excited. I'm excited to connect and just discuss everything that's been happening, everything that's on my plate, and definitely the new drop that's releasing tomorrow on Makerspace.
Fantastic. And so to get us started, because I think that for some of the community, perhaps they will know some of your producing credits in the music world, but perhaps not have associated with that with you. Would you give us a little bit of your history and some of the accomplishments that you've had? And that could, I think, be a good segue into how you've tied music into visual art.
Um, my creative, I mean, I've been an artist since birth, but I think music is what really grabbed me when I was younger, and I ended up building and developing a career in music. I started as a producer, songwriter, artist, and then I always wanted to have a record label at some point. So I knew I wanted to learn the business as well. And around 2005, I had the opportunity to um, enter for a very successful independent hip hop label, and that really changed my life. I've been working in the music business as a creative executive since then, and it's just been such an exciting journey, bittersweet journey as well. But there's always balance to life. But it's just been truly incredible. I've worked over the years as an A&R, as a product manager, and once I moved to LA 10 years ago, I got much more focused on my production company, my management company, and just started working on developing producers and songwriters and kind of bringing them in under my wing and helping them land some of their first records, getting their first plaques. And it's just been an exciting journey. I've been blessed to work on a lot of incredible projects from, I think, the biggest, most successful project my team has been a part of is Pitbull's Timber, which was a huge #1 worldwide single. That was, ironically, that was a life-changing opportunity and record that allowed me to truly focus on art, which is, like I said, that's my first passion. Um, and I've worked with, people like T-Pain, Diddy, Flo Rida when he was still, very relevant, even to more recently where I've worked with, I've done a lot of K-pop stuff. So I've worked with the likes of EXO, one of the top acts in K-pop, um, Red Velvet. I mean, it's been an incredible, incredible journey on the music side of things. And, as you mentioned, how it I've always had a love for music culture, but pop culture in general. Just from the youngest age, I've just been kind of um, fascinated, if you will, with pop culture, and it just seemed like a no-brainer once I started getting focused on my art journey. And I I knew it was important to find a distinct style, something that really stood out from what every other artist is doing, and that's just something that I learned working in the music business. So I'm known for two distinct styles. This is one of the bodies of work that I'm known for, where I celebrate pop icons across, sports, television, music, which is where it started. The series started with my jazz collection, celebrating greats like Miles Davis, Coltrane, Louis Armstrong, and then it just kind of evolved from there. As I said, I've been a fan of pop culture from day one. So there's there's just an endless list of artists that I would love to celebrate and cover within my body of work. And yeah, that's kind of how I got started in, part of the journey.
And what an amazing journey that has been. Like, that's a dream journey for sure. And being able to not only work with such amazing creators, but also enable more creativity in the space. And that, I think, is where the magic really lies. So you've been able to transition, from the music space into the art space. And as you mentioned, like being able to create renditions of or representations of these cultural icons for people to appreciate in a new light, which is really amazing. So, how did that, I think, bring you to the crypto space? Because, like, looking at these, like, the physical art is glorious, but what was the transition into crypto like?
Um, to be honest, Makerspace, they reached out to me in 2018, and this is, I've been developing my fine art practice for 10 years now. And, I've shown in galleries, been featured in museums, and I'm in my fifth museum show right now. So I've put in a lot of work on that side of things, and up until last year, I wasn't touching digital whatsoever. As I mentioned, I'm known for this body of work, but my main body of work that I'm known for is called Vanity Pop, and it's where I have these abstract portraits that look like they're collage, but they're fully hand painted. So that's in the fine art world. That's what I'm really known for. Um, so, it was just very important for me to do everything organic and making sure I wanted to make sure there was nothing digital in my process. So it wasn't until last year where the quarantine hit, COVID hit and took over, and it just changed everything. It gave me the time that I felt I needed. I just had a son recently. I have a 3-year-old son. So it was about time. I wanted to learn digital art, but it wasn't until the quarantine that I actually picked up digital art. Um, but back to the question of, 2018, towards the end, mid year, Makerspace reached out, and this was, I believe, when they were just starting the site, and they said, "Hey, we have, this site we're building, digital art," and to be honest, I had no clue what NFTs were, crypto art. It just felt like something I needed to be a part of. I've always considered myself as an artist. I think we have to be ahead of the curve and just really pay attention to where trends are headed. And it seemed like something I needed to be a part of. So while I didn't fully understand it, I went ahead and said yes. And so I officially joined the late 2018, and that was my initial introduction to the space. Um, I spent the next few years I was still trying to figure it out because in my physical practice, I do sell prints. I sell limited edition prints. So when I first jumped in, I was really just focused on my vanity pop body of work, which is what you're showing. And, again, this is something that I'm really known for in the art world. And it's all fully hand painted, but one thing about this body of work is it loses so much when you view it in a digital form. Like it's still beautiful and people appreciate my work, but it's something you really need to see in person, to appreciate. So my first few pieces that I minted were in this style, and I want to say I did like maybe 50 editions, trying to keep it cohesive to my physical practice. And it just kind of sat there for a little while, to be honest. And I started reaching out to the guys at Makerspace that connected me, and I was just trying to figure out what I can do differently, strategically, and something just kind of connected where I said I wanted to try something a little different. So I decided to upload some of my pop icons into the space, and I started to lower some of the additions tremendously. 50 was way too much, in my opinion, for the NFT space. So I lowered the additions. I think I might have lowered it to 20. And, as time began to grow and I started to slowly get those first few sales, which felt incredible, it slowly opened my eyes. To be honest, the NFT space is something that I'm always learning about, even to this day, being in 3 years or so. I'm still learning so much about the space and how to maneuver and how to do things differently. So, those like I said, the pop icon series, I just noticed the difference, and I said, okay, well, I need to upload more of this body of work into the space, which I did ultimately, and slowly but surely, those sales began to pick up, and even as I'm telling you, I didn't fully understand the space. I was taking those initial sales and just cashing them out pretty immediately. As an artist, we typically we're not typically worried about money. We don't care about money. We just want to create. We want to do what we're passionate about. And if money comes along with that, so be it. So I'm cashing these transactions out, and at some point, something just randomly told me to leave it in the account. And I think I checked back a week or two later, and that's when I noticed that there was growth. So that's when the dots kind of connected, like, oh, this is like stock from my art, and it's presenting it in a digital form. So it just really opened my eyes to the power of this space. And mind you, I hadn't really even tapped into true digital art yet. So all of my earliest NFTs were JPEGs of my physical work. Um, so it wasn't until last year, I think 2019 is the first time really things picked up pretty consistently to where monthly I was seeing these sales that, I said, okay, this is a nice little additional stream of revenue. Um, but then 2020, towards the end of 2019, headed into 2020, things really began to pick up, and just like, okay, this 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 is something. And at the same time, like I said, around March last year, it gave me time to really dive into Procreate, try to learn that, and um, as I stated, my vanity pop body of work, it's something that I wanted to keep organic. I want to keep in a more traditional sense. So it made sense to really focus on this body of work, my pop icon series, and that's what I did. I started in, I think a Janet Jackson piece I did was my very first digital creation in this sense of, drawing everything from inception on my iPad. Um, and just to be honest, I was just in a conversation sharing how digital art has truly it's changed my life tremendously. Just being a traditional artist, and I still am very much in my traditional art space. I think it's important for me to be in both worlds as an artist. But it's just helped me grow so much in, I think the biggest way is my just understanding and appreciation of color theory. um, I'm fully self-taught, so this journey is it's been trial and error. But digital art, the power of undo, power of erasing, and just being able to really experiment and step outside of my box just gave me the opportunity to push the bar on a lot of what I've been working on. And it's been life changing on a creative level. And then, once 2021 hit, oh man, it really, really started to pick up. And, once NFTs were on everybody's tongue, once the world found out about the power of NFTs, that's when things really started to explode. And Honestly, it's been an incredibly blessed journey. I'm just grateful and thankful for, Makerspace to reaching out and presenting this opportunity, but even bigger to the people that have been supporting this journey. Because I wouldn't be in this space. I wouldn't be here. Like, this is my own gallery. I wouldn't be here without my supporters, my collectors, and that's everything to me.
And that is such an inspirational story. And we actually had a comment in the chat noting that the community is really loving this style, this pop art style that reminds folks of the 90s. So you have some really interesting things going on here because you have obviously the references to the pop culture, but you also have a very strong grasp through the color theory on harnessing the power of nostalgia, which is a really interesting thing. And I will say that's something that I had noticed way up at the beginning, where you gave us a story here in the description about, listening to music and having that be something that you related to, your family experiences. And that's what gave you foundations and really connects people together. And
Mhm.
music and nostalgia, like they tend to all have that, connection because of the memories. And now we've got that here using the color theory and the choice of your subjects as well. And how has, each of these individuals, I guess, has a story that you're telling through the art. How do you go through the process of getting what's in your head or what you're feeling into the representation here?
Well, there's so many levels to what I'm creating or trying to create. There's the initial connection, the nostalgia of just the subject itself. You know, it's like if you love Michael Jordan, if you love Drake, if you love DMX, it's gonna draw you in. Period. Um, so it's like there's the initial low-hanging fruit. But then for me as an artist, it's just no matter what I create, to me, art, the importance of art is it's supposed to make you feel something, period. Whether you hate it, you love it. If it doesn't make you feel anything, I think it's just a great design, which there's nothing wrong with that. There's a time and a place for everything. But art, to me, I need to feel something. So there's already the immediate connection of the subject that I'm creating, but then for me, the portrait, the angle, the juxtaposition, the pose, I need to make sure that it makes me feel something as I'm doing my research. So I go through a lot of different photos and just really see what I really connect with. It, the research is a huge part of what I do, and so there's already two levels here. Then you have the whole dynamic of color. There's so much energy and emotion and color in itself. If you're just looking at a raw blank slate, a red canvas, a blue canvas, they're going to make you feel two completely different ways. So adding this into this boiling pot, if you will, just adds multiple levels of raw emotion, raw energy that play off of each other at the end of the day. And that's, it's very intentional on my part to just not just celebrate iconic people that I consider legends in our culture, in our pop culture, because we're connected on pop culture connects us in general, period. That's the power of pop culture. So there's just all these multiple levels of connection, and that's just important. If I want to make you feel something, okay, let me hit you across the head with emotion and energy. Let me pull you in. It's like you're going fishing and you throw in 10 hooks, all in the same bait. Like you're going to pull all of it in, you might catch a whale. So it's just important for me to do this. Like I said, it's very intentional. And these are people that I connect with personally. And as a fan of pop culture, as somebody that has appreciated pop culture from a very young age, I'd like to think um, I'm in tune with what other people appreciate. I like to pay attention. I'm the type that sits back and observes. So, I like to think we all have a connection with these people that I want to celebrate at the end of the day. I don't. there's never a point where I'm just picking random people. It's like, no, this person has been instrumental in my life. They provided a great level of inspiration, motivation. So I want to pay that forward. And a lot of the times, unfortunately, so many of these people have passed. It just seems inherent to the artist process, sadly. But it gives me an opportunity to keep their legacies alive and thriving and introduce the youth to them as well. A lot of people haven't heard um, Sade's older material or Prince's older material, or, some people might not even know who they are. So it just gives people a different opportunity to learn and appreciate and feel and just have this full on experience, all based on one portrait, a simple portrait, if you will, even though there's multiple levels, multiple colors. I say simple, but it's pretty complex, even as I share it. Just the true power of art.
That is absolutely powerful. And so, one of the questions the community had as you were talking about this, and we're looking here, I know that you mentioned that many of these um, icons that you're depicting have passed on. But for those who are still with us, are there any that you've been able to share your depictions with and gotten a reaction from them? I'm always curious about how people receive seeing themselves through someone else's eyes.
Well, that's a tricky thing. You better make sure you have a great portrait if you do somebody that's alive. That's what I will say. Um, I've been blessed to, off top, like I know Will Smith has seen his portrait, the very first portrait I did of him, and loved it. I've had quite a few of those moments where people that are alive have seen my work by chance, or the great part about being in LA is that everybody knows somebody that knows somebody. So I've just been blessed to where my work travels, and yes, some people have. Um, I wonder sometimes. I ask myself that same question, but I don't. I honestly don't get too caught up into it, because what's more important to me is just how my work is connecting with people, like everyday walk of life, just people across the board, across the world. That's definitely more of my concern, more of my focus. But it has been cool to know that certain people have give their thumbs up approval, like, hey, I love what you're doing. Thank you. You know.
That is definitely a powerful thing. And I will say, as you were explaining this and, kind of making sure that you're conveying the emotions and the vibes here with just these portraits, is that something that you're, primarily sticking with? I know that we had some of the more deconstructed type portraits back in the Vanity Pop collection, and then we have, the Legends Pop Icon collection where we've got more portraits. But are there other ways that you look at art to express emotion that aren't solely based on humans, I guess? Or is this your preferred method to, focus on the human subject?
Yeah, I mean, this is just my preferred method. There's no wrong way to connect. I have done portraits of pets earlier in my career, things of that nature. But people, I think I've always been fascinated with people. I'm one of those people that enjoys people watching and just figuring out why people do the things they do. I love the psychology, behind it. It connects. We're people, we're social, we're meant to be together, we're meant to connect, and that's something that draws me in and always has. So I think, um, while I can't necessarily predict where my inspiration will lead me, I'm almost always just fascinated with people, and want to celebrate people through portraits. I think, the more obscure side of that is my Vanity Pop series, as you mentioned, where these are abstract portraits, and I'm able to bring these different elements into the picture where it's not just cut and dry, a face forward portrait. There are these different fashion elements and just different design elements, all that I bring in together, even like, the butterfly element. So that's where I definitely get more experimental. But even with that series, it's still about people. Like this, that series celebrates women and perfection, imperfection, and our society's idolization of beauty. So it's always about people for me, for sure.
And that definitely, like I will say of the two, I feel definitely more drawn to this one. And I think because as you just explained, about that struggle with the perfection, the imperfection, like this so beautifully portrays that. And so what are you doing next then? Because, we have this and we have the pop icons, and is there a next step for where your artistic journey is taking you, or a specific theme that you're working toward?
My I'm always evolving as an artist. I think that's very important. I think keeping things consistent to a certain level is important, so people know what they're getting into. Brand wise, what I stand for, what I represent. So I'm always working on both series. Um, my, most immediately, this new drop with Makerspace that opens tomorrow or releases tomorrow is what I've spent the past few months focused on, where it celebrates LA pop culture and just how important it has been, not to just this community here in Los Angeles, but to the world. As I thought about just pop culture and LA culture, it's just been so instrumental to so much of what we've experienced through life, from, sports, entertainment, to even political things that have happened. So that's my newest body of work. That's definitely what's next immediately. I'm super excited, about that. And as I mentioned, this is my gallery. The It hasn't even been open to the public just yet, so you're getting a first glimpse of what to expect. So I've added gallery owner into my list of titles. So I'm excited about that. And then, my Vanity Pop collection, which is, to me, it's my, it's pretty much a huge blessing to have two distinct styles that people know me for. But I think my true legacy work is Vanity Pop, and it's what I've always shown in galleries. It's what I've shown in museums. As I mentioned, I'm in my fifth museum exhibition at the W MoCA right now. I'm always just looking on ways to really grow that body of series, and where that series celebrates women, celebrates diversity, and it always has. It's grown and evolved just even over this past 2 years to celebrate more more women, people of color, and I focus on women just because it encompasses all of us. I wouldn't be here on this earth without my mother having me, and none of us would be. So women represent all of us as humans, and I just can't even fathom what a woman has to go through and deal with on a day-to-day basis. And this, we live in a superficial world, um, so I just tie into the fact that I grew up overweight, so I understand how it is, just perceptions and how we're viewed in this world, when you look a certain way, when you move a certain way, and just the importance that's placed on outer appearances. So it's kind of how the connection starts with that body of work. But I'm always working on new stuff. Um, and as far as outside of the box of those two series, last year during the quarantine, I actually did start on a new series that um, celebrates luxury within people of color. So it's like it's cohesive to what I do in my pop icon series. It's completely digital, but it's just different. It's so different, and I haven't really told or shared too much about that body of work. So I'm looking forward to sharing that very soon. Um, Aside from that, is just, like I said, keeping things cohesive and finding new ways to present this my body of work, my art, And, one thing about me is that you can always expect evolution. I just shared, just before this interview, I shared with one of my great friends um, this everything that's in the drop, these 8 new pieces. And she was completely blown away. And, she said something that kind of stood out. She was like, we always expect something great from you, but you always find a way to take it to to a much higher level than what I could ever expect. And that's key for me. It's heartwarming to hear somebody else say that, but I'm an artist that I really don't look at what other artists are doing. I do get inspiration from seeing other people's artwork, but I really feel like I'm only in competition with myself. I feel like each piece, while cohesive, I treat each piece as a true one of one. And that means that I want to outdo my last painting, my last body of work. So I'm always going to find ways. I'm always going to take that extra step to step things up, take it to another level. And at the end of the day, it's about me adding as much value as possible to what I'm doing, and I'm just very, very big. I highly value taking care of the people that take care of me, of the people that support me. So even with this new body of work, 8 new pieces, they all come with a large canvas. They all come with a large frame canvas, like the size of this Michael Jordan piece behind me, which is just, I see NFTs as a utility, and it gives me an opportunity to bridge that gap and connect people in my physical collectorship to, with my NFT collectors, and just bring them both into that space of NFTs. Um, and I just think that's important. Like I said, just bringing as much value to the table as possible and always delivering my absolute best.
And that is amazing. That actually takes us back to a comment that you had made when you were explaining your entry into crypto and how at some point you had realized that, like, by keeping the profits in, it was like stock in yourself. And here people are investing in your art, and that's, investing as, having the pieces is like having stock in you as an artist and the belief in what you're doing and the message that you're putting out to the world. And I
Mhm.
think it's amazing on your Makerspace here, you actually have this tab that, as you were talking about, has, the NFT bundle. So you get, the NFT, but also the physical art to go with it. So here we can see an example of you already doing this and then looking forward to the next steps that you're going to take.
Yeah, initially the physical bundles were, that I didn't make that connection initially, but as NFTs began to grow, I would have conversations with my physical collectors, um, and I would try to tell them like, hey, you wanna start collecting NFTs now, like right now. Um, and there was always pretty much the same comment of, I don't know, I need to have something physical, something tangible that I can hold, that I can see. And they still, most people they're just like, I don't get what the NFT is. Um, and on the flip side, a lot of people that collect my NFTs, getting a physical piece just took the value for them to a whole different level. I saw the excitement written all over their face. And, it just I think last year is when I really began to see that connection and say, okay, let me try this and connect, a limited edition print, an original painting to this NFT to just take that value to a whole different level. And most of everybody was very receptive, super excited about getting their hands on both. It's one thing to have this NFT in your digital wallet, but then if you can have a piece on your wall as well, it was just game changing and life changing. And I said to myself I reached once I saw that working, just that was just an experiment. I was like, okay, I need to make sure that virtually everything that I meant is released in this fashion. So I make sure that, again, that the people that support me, that support my dreams and what I'm doing, which is to create for a living, they get rewarded for that in multiple ways. That's just very important. Um, and it's worked. It's exciting, and I'm so excited to share this new body of work because, like I said, every NFT, all 8 pieces are coming with a large, not just a small frame print. It's coming with a large frame canvas, which is it's exciting. It's very, very exciting knowing that I'll have just that big presence in somebody's home and somebody's daily life because art is powerful. It's incredibly powerful. And, I always knew art was powerful, but I think it wasn't until going through quarantine and going through, this pandemic where I received multiple messages from people of just sharing how powerful my art was for them and just providing inspiration and hope that, you know, we can make it through anything in life. So, yeah, I'm excited.
I'm excited too. And so with this, as you keep mentioning this new release, these 8 pieces, when and where, how can we keep up to know when these are out so we can see?
It's going to be on Makerspace. The drop is actually tomorrow. 3:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and it's actually a two-part drop. So I have 8
Ooh,
new pieces that celebrate LA legends, but we decided to split it into 2 parts where the first 4 are dropping tomorrow, and then the second 4 are dropping the same week of of the grand opening of this gallery space that I'm sitting in. So as excited as I am about tomorrow, I'm even more excited that we're able to kind of spread it out and um, just deliver the biggest impact possible.
that is amazing. I like the idea of having that two-part drop as well because, you're building the hype in the metaverse and then bringing it to the real world and at the same time creating a portal for those people who are here in the physical space to actually come in to the metaverse through your art, which is so magical. And I hope we get a lot of pictures of the opening of your gallery because what I'm seeing here is super awesome and I need to see more.
Well, thank you. You'll definitely get plenty of pictures. We're gonna have video, we're gonna have pictures, and actually all 8 pieces that are, like I said, they come with frame canvas. Those 8 pieces will be on display for the opening, and then they'll ship immediately after. So they'll be on display for people to see them large and bold. And I also have a CryptoVoxels gallery that is, I just think it's very important to have a representation in both spaces, as I mentioned. So that will be opening as well on the 18th, September 18th. So just, just trying to stay ahead of the curve, trying to stay in tune with what's happening. And I think that's going to be a huge part of the new model for any art gallery, having a physical space and having a digital storefront as well.
That makes so much sense because I think for a lot of folks, like there's a big barrier to the traveling and getting to the physical space. But if you can experience that wherever you are, that increases your reach as an artist so significantly. And being able to give people, a near authentic experience where they're popping into the crypto boxes or checking out your gallery, like, oh my goodness, that's so amazing. You
Thank
can
you.
have a whale party there in your gallery once it's open. September 18th, you said.
Yes, September 18th. I'm actually playing around with the idea of having a VIP, a special intimate VIP opening for my collectors. So I love the idea of a whale party for sure.
Yes, everybody can get their best wearables on and show up. This is amazing. So, with this, we're going to keep an eye on your Maker's Place tomorrow. And I've got that linked in the Discord chat for everybody. So that way they can keep an eye as well as your social media. So we've got your Instagram here, which I've shared in the chat, as well as your Twitter, which I've shared. And it's nice because your Twitter, you actually have this awesome link that takes you to all of the important things for all of your products, whether they're digital or physical, takes to your official website as well, so people can keep up with everything you're doing. And if you've got this gallery for the different collections that you have. So, is there anything else, though, that we should be keeping an eye on to make sure that we don't miss out on anything that you're doing?
Um, I would just, it's been an incredible journey. Um, I did a campaign for Nike earlier this year. There's always a lot going on for me just because I love what I do. I'm extremely passionate about what I do, and I'm just highly motivated to be my best in everything I do. I'm far from perfect, but that's just what drives me. The passion that I'm able to live through daily. So the best thing I can recommend is just follow me on your social media platforms. Instagram, Twitter are definitely main accounts for me. Um, and I'm very active with keeping you up to date with what's going on, and my website. Aside from that, like, that's the best way to stay in the loop of things. And one thing I can promise you is that there's always going to be up and forward. Just evolution and growth in what I'm doing and bringing to the table for not just myself, but for the people that support me, that for the people that believe in what I'm doing. That's number one for me at all times. So, just expect new, fresh things.
All right. Well, we will definitely, like looking at the art that you've created so far, I feel like we could expect nothing less than fresh things, honestly. So we will keep an eye on the social, both Twitter, Instagram, your Makerspace page. Absolutely. So that way we can be ready for the drop tomorrow. And then as you continue to open your galleries, we'll be there as well. Um, with that, I think that we've taken up an hour of your time, so I don't want to hold you anymore. I'm sure you've got a lot of preparation to do. But it was such an honor to have you here with the whale community today. Thank you so much, Vaccine, for coming and talking to us about your journey. This is amazing. And I think it's really valuable for people to see, you know, your progression through the space and how much of an impact you can make through your art.
Well, thank you so much. It was truly an honor to be here, speaking, connecting with you. And, I'm very grateful. So thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Whale Community, for hanging out with us today. We will keep an eye on everything the vaccine is doing and follow up again soon. Have a good day, everyone.
Yes, and thank you everyone for tuning in.
Yes, thank you. Bye, all.